Well, happy V-Day to those of you out there celebrating that day. I am Dr. Stephanie Ardrey, and I would like to welcome you to Naked with Dr. Money. This is my weekly vlog where I talk about mindset, motivations, and manifestations. And with each guest, that's typically the tone of our conversation. But we also weave in critical commentary about news. Around topics of wellness, which is one of the favorite topics, and about making sure that you're thinking about how you're going to maintain your wellness, mind, body, and soul. Earlier today, I was having a conversation with someone, and we were discussing just the state of what's happening in the world. Many of you, we see some of the statistics talking about the illnesses that different people are experiencing and suffering. And it's an interesting thing because, a lot of times when you are involved along your journey, you don't realize that illness can be the result of mindset and things that you've experienced and encountered along your journey. A lot of times there are stressors and other things. There was a young lady that I was commented on who posted on LinkedIn the fact that she had been under stress, going through a graduate program involved in divorce. And how those things combined caused her to suffer a brain aneurysm. Luckily, she survived. But what she was sharing is the importance of realizing the impacts of stress. We talk about wellness holistically and how mind, body, and soul contributed to your wellness. It's not just about what it is you eat, what it is you're consuming, but what is it that you're spending a lot of time thinking about, your thoughts. Are you lacking in terms of sleep? Are you overwhelmed by situations that really, believe it or not, you might be walking around holding your breath, all of those kinds of things. Well, today I have a guest. He is definitely a repeat performer, Dr. Aubrey Oliver. He is a functional medicine physician and addresses these types of ailments. I'm happy to have a conversation with him today because there were a few things that, one, he shared and I caught in the news a week ago. And I had my 2 cents that I wanted to share, but I didn't get an opportunity. So in this conversation, we'll have an opportunity to share. But before I do that, let me go ahead and introduce Dr. Aubrey Oliver.
I am here. I'm here.
Hey, Doc, how you doing?
I'm doing good. Don't mind the background. I'm in somebody's room.
Okay. Well, I know you're doing what you usually do. You're
Oh,
out and
it's,
about and treating patients. Yeah.
I know. And I like my little gift here, my hat,
Okay.
Adidas. But I could wear it or I don't. But it's cold here, so I try to cover my head. I don't want to get a head cold. It's one of the worst feeling.
Yeah, and
Um,
things are going around that season.
I know, but we have good. If you have good DNA, good immune system, good blood capillaries, you can beat all of this. Our body is like a reinforced medieval castle. It's actually more powerful than a medieval castle, the way they protect themselves. So we can activate those protections, and that's what we probably talk about today also.
Absolutely. Well, with Naked with Dr. Money, we talk about mindset, motivations, and manifestations. But even in that, weaving in the realities of things about, how disease forms. And it begins with mindset. A lot of times people take that for granted. Stressors, you were giving me advice about, I was sharing my lack of sleep, restlessness, what that's about, stressing and no
Yes.
matter how aware you are, it doesn't mean that you don't fall prey to those possibilities. We're all human. So, even the best of us can find ourselves in a situation where we're not only consuming bad thoughts, or we're watching, the news, or we hear a tragic story and we take it in. And then that coupled with, not necessarily having the best nutritionally dense, meals, or skipping a meal, or inconsistencies with our vitamin.
I
There's a
know,
bunch of
I
things
know.
wreak havoc on our bodies and systems, and especially around this time of the year when the weather changes. What are you seeing as you travel around?
Well, one of the things that we need to address with these weird diseases and potent what's going around, more and more people catching these weird flus. Is it SCARS or SARS or Mars or whatever it is? It is coming from each of us. Well, we have a billion people. Let's start with that. A billion people who have recently taken a gene therapy injection. And the reason for that gene therapy injection was to take on this new type of virus, which viruses are dead cells. So they're dead cells that manifest with protein around them. And they float around in the air all the time. From the beginning of time, we as human have to be dealing with virus. Viruses has caused a lot of things over the years, like the Great Bubonic Plague and the Black Plague and all these other things that came about throughout centuries that wipe out billions of us because we were not protected properly by cells, by DNA, stem cells, capillaries, all the other things that, gut health, all of that contribute to the breaking down of our systems and cause us to get these diseases. Now, what I'm seeing that's going on right now, you see all these, they keep saying there's a new disease. There's no new disease. I mean, all these things been there from the beginning of time. But what we have added is through our so-called sciences, science experiments and science, because the scientists have to work and the people in science have to stay busy. And so they come up with stuff all the time that either helps or destroy. It just happens that the last big go around of science with a mRNA vaccine has now been in its experimental stage for 3 years. They're still pushing it to the point where more and more people are now seeing so much adverse effects in their systems. And then people who are not evil, who didn't even take it, but around people that took it, married to people that took it, are seeing the disease, a variety of disease manifesting that wouldn't normally manifest. And if they did manifest, they would manifest in a turbo stage as what they're doing now. So we've seen patients that I'm treating with these turbo cancers, all of them have taken the vaccine. And the ones who have it genetically, or were genetically predisposed, they are seeing it activated quicker and advanced just as fast as those who took the vaccine because their partners took the vaccine and they're around people who took the vaccine all the time. So, we always have these predisposed ill health situations that as humans we've been exposed to all our lives. All of us have these cancer cells inside of it, but what caused it to activate? What caused it to move faster in some than others? Certain cancers you can live with. Some people live with certain cancers for 20, 30 years. But recently, you get diagnosed in the first month, and within a year, it's at stage 4.
So
Those things are.
before you go too deep into that, let's kind of talk about just that, because I know I've had a conversation with people about understanding that we all have cancer cells and the purpose of the cancer cells. You've had that conversation about, the decomposition of our bodies. And so kind of for somebody that maybe is not understanding, kind of the life of why why would we have cancer cells in our body? What is the purpose and function? And what is a typical progression?
Well, what we call a lot of times cancer cell is what we call ghost cells. So ghost cells are, your body, I think every so often, 7, 8, 9 years, regenerate. When they say that we don't regrowth like lizards and other animals, we do, but we do it from inside. So we do all of that from inside. Livers can regrow, tissues in the mouth can regrow, tissues around the vagina can regrow, gut tissues can regrow, especially in the liver, pancreas, those kind of things. These can regrow once they're fed the right nutrients and in the right environment. So environment is very important. So how did cancer cells come about? What are their importance? Why are they there? I mean, are they important? Yes. I mean, they're only important for speeding up certain demise of certain tissues and breaking down certain tissues. But why would you want something that's there breaking down tissues or getting rid of certain things inside of your system or causing capillaries to grow, overgrow, or deal with overgrowth of stem cells? They're all there for that reason. But they are left over when the body replenishes itself every 7 years, 7 to 9 years, where you get a whole new body. Maybe that's why some people like to get a whole new car after 10 years. They want to keep up with the cells in their body. They want to keep up with the DNA. They want to keep up with their angiogenesis system, which is cells regenerating themselves and stem cells regenerating themselves, and keeping within moderation, because if stem cells over regenerate, then that can cause cancer to activate. So these cells, we call them ghost cells, because for some reason, when your body regenerates their cells over this period of time, 7, 8, 9 years, there's always some cells left over. They don't want to go anywhere. It's kind of like, you kick some people out of your, some, what they call them, squatters, out of your place, and you think you got rid of all of them, especially if you have a big place, a big mansion, and then you come back one day and find some more still in the basement, still set up and not going anywhere, or duck ants or any of those kind of things that attack your real estate, termites and all those things. When you think you spend all this money to get rid of all of it and clean up, there's still a little nest somewhere, like parasites in your body. You do your parasite cleanse and you clean out all this stuff, but there's always a little nest that left over. So that's what these cancer cells are. These cancer cells is that little nest that's left over. Now, I don't know why they, as scientists, we don't always know the answers as far as these things. When we're humble scientists, we always say, well, we don't know why these things still persist, why they're still there. But, I just think it's a part of the self-destruct system, like Mission Impossible. After, he listened to that tape and he said his tape will self-destruct in 30 seconds, and you better get through that tape, or the acid start burning, you better get out of there because you don't want to breathe that. Similar, I think these cells are there for self-destruct at some point, where when all fails, they're there to help break down the system fast. If the DNA system fail, if your gut biome system fail, if your capillary system fail, all of them failing, then the cancer cells finish off the job before these other systems causes the total demise. So, and then when the system shuts down, then the cancer cells, in a way, are the ghost cells. They come in and basically finish the cleaning up. Now, that's different from decay of flesh and decay of tissues and organs, because those are operate and function on a different situation. But we know that cancer cells does contribute to the deterioration of these organs and tissues once they attach to the blood, DNA, capillaries, and the other things that are part of that system of angiogenesis.
So before you continue, here's the question that I have, because I know we've had this where when you are completing your assessment early on, a lot of times with some of your patients, and you have treated a number of patients with different forms of cancer, it seems that a lot of times in that assessment, you're able to trace back to something that happened, that that person experienced, that mentally they were under enormous amount of stress, or they were thinking about, or they were worried about, or something happened, and
Yeah,
that too began the process of the development of dis-ease internal to the body. So
right,
let's kind of
right,
touch on a little bit of that, because I don't think that people are always aware of how much it's not what you consume includes your thoughts.
right. I do take on a lot of hats as a physician. And the hats that I like the best when I first started out was the social scientist hats, doing my social scientist researches, um, getting a high grade in my psychology classes, my anthropology classes, and sociology classes. I love those subjects. I mean, if there was a way to make money, being a social scientist, I probably would focus on that and do my, different shows on, yeah, maybe there's a way to make money, but you have to develop that name to really for people to trust what you're saying about social sciences. But that's my first love, social science. And one of the reasons why I got into alternative medicine is because one of my favorite social sciences is anthropology. And when you study anthropology and study people and the evolvement of people and DNA in different cultures and tribes and countries, and you know, you get to understand how certain disease develop among certain people, how some people live longer than others, and so forth. So there's a social aspect to that is very important when you're dealing with yourself individually or trying to get naked, right? So there's that connection socially. And so I pride myself as a social scientist first, and then a physician um, second, and then third, lately, because of what's going on with these terrible cancers, I am now calling myself the holistic oncologist. Holistic oncologist. I mean, I focus on cancer now, but how do we deal with it holistically? And so it starts with the mind first. A lot of times when I do start talking to my patients, we can actually pinpoint where they think that the DNA breakdown is. And this was before COVID. I mean, I would talk to patients and we'd discuss what was going on in their life at the time when they were receiving the most stress, the most I would say bad eating, because sometimes when you're stressing, you also take on a bad habit of eating certain things that is not good, but at the time it's comfort food. It helps you to deal with and cope with what you're dealing with. So you can always pinpoint, in those areas when it happened. So socially, we understand also when you're eating bad, you also activate all these bad biomes, bad bacteria in your system, which now start making a demand on your brain for certain types of food. And so it also, a lot of my patients can pinpoint when this kind of slide start happening. Now, the other thing, why I'm kind of busier these days, researching more, is now what happens with these environmental issues that has been brought on, whether it's man-made or what they want to say, it's the environment breaking down of the ozone layers and other things that are going on, which I think those things been there from the beginning of time, and the earth always correct itself. It doesn't need no aid in causing early demise of any body or anyone or any sets of people. That's all some evil, diabolical, you know, people that, just think that they have gotten to the point where they're just so powerful that they can make these decisions. Now, that said, I'm finding that apart from the social aspect, we also have these environmental issues to deal with. We're breathing more garbage, more things. And if you're not in the right mindset, because it's funny, because socially, you can also develop a bunch of different diseases through first starting with how you're thinking, thoughts, and then transferring that to your second brain, which is your gut, and then that brain start dictating to the top brain what it needs to deal with the situation that it's dealing with socially. And so it becomes a cycle of just overall bad health. But this can be fixed because you just have to know it's mind over matter when you get to this point in time and in your life.
Yeah, we talk about again the critical importance of mindset and how mindset contributes to your motivations because again, and then how that turns up as it relates to manifestations. It's what you manifest, right? What you're motivated to do is what you're going to basically manifest. And if you begin to recreate those things. So it makes me think when we talk about nutrition. I was having a conversation with a colleague who's doing a fantastic project. There's been a lot of talk about blue zones, and so I'm going to get her on for a conversation about that. And I remember, part of why I was even on this wellness journey had a lot to do with my mother making a decision that she could influence the wellness outcomes based on lifestyle choices because she looked at maybe what people said were hereditary, chronic conditions that existed in the family, but she was able to understand the correlation between what it was the family would consume. So when you talk about soul foods, what are the kind of traditional meal planning that is passed on generation after generation after generation, not realizing that if you continue to do things how you've always done them, but more importantly, the source of those ingredients. I think that's the part that a lot of times people miss is the ingredients that maybe my great grandmother used were not as contaminated as if I tried to use some of those same ingredients today. The water has
Right.
been polluted, the air has been polluted, the soil has been polluted. So I might not be able to consume some of the same things that my great greats consumed just because it may have been okay for them, but that doesn't mean that it's okay for me at this particular stage. So it brings to the understanding of two things. One, making sure that we're detoxing our bodies, but two, making sure that we're evaluating if what we believe are the ingredients, if they're still the same or how those ingredients have been altered and thereby how they play, a role in our gut health being changed.
Well, I mean, I'm going back to hunter gatherings. Hunter gatherers are way before agriculture society started. Hunter gatherers start with the Neanderthals. The Neanderthals used to do it in Caucasus Mountain area with their, going out in the cold trying to find food, and most of the time it's animals, and they end up having clothing from it. All the way down to the Sahara and the beautiful weather all year round in Africa and the Caribbean, it was still a hunter-gathering thing going on, even in the Caribs when they used to hunt the Tainos for food, it's like, or in the pygmy area in New Guinea and those places where used to have cannibals, and one of their hunting was to go after other tribes to get their food. Whether it is, humans, pigs, wild boars, which are wild pigs, buffaloes, all that stuff. That doesn't change as far as, maintaining good health, good gut biomes and DNA. What has changed, to be honest, is scientists becoming more, thinking that they're getting more smarter and making food in the lab.
Hmm.
That is the main problem. That is the main disease causing why, disease has taken us over in the last 100 years. I wouldn't say old fashioned chitlins and some good old Southern soul food was bad, because there's so many people in the South who live to 100 years old. And, black male, black females, we still see them dancing and stuff at 100, 102. And they basically eat their Southern, diet, which in some people, yeah, it looks bad because, you're talking pig feet and big pig belly and these kind of things. But they couldn't be all that bad if we see people living to 100 eating these things, right?
But everything is not for everyone. Everything is definitely not for everyone.
No, not for everyone. I mean, it's acquired taste in some cases, of course. I mean, we know that. But I'm just saying, you see young people dropping like flies more than the older folks. And it's because they're now into designer foods and into fast foods. And, because I don't care when you used to eat those Southern ribs and all those things, at least you used to prepare them at home with your corn, healthy corns, of course. And now corn is very contaminated. Grains are the way what they've done to grains with all this GMO materials is what another travesty, because grain was always healthy, high fiber. But now with all this chemical where they make it that the insect will not eat it. Oats every kind of oats have about 2 different pesticide present, whether you get it in the milk, whether you get it in, hard oats or, steel mill oats or old fashioned oats. Once they harvest it, they spray it with 2 pesticides. So it's going to be in it. That's after harvesting it. Then they spray it. So that measles and those things that we used to see, when you have something too long. I remember when I was a child, if it sit there too long, oats or anything, all these bugs take it up and eat it because it was healthy. They can eat it. Now they don't touch that thing forever. They're like, stay away from it. So you can imagine if the insects are not attacking it anymore, what is going on in our body?
Exactly.
When we take these,
I remember that. I remember that.
We throw things out because there was too much measles. But by right, you didn't have to throw it out. The Chinese probably would have eaten it because it's protein added. Good protein. I always tell people, keep it. It's protein, because that means it's healthy grains and the measles want to eat it. Man, I don't see that. We don't have that problem anymore. But those same GMO will go in and contaminate our gut health, causing leaky gut and other issues where stuff start going down into our joints, into our knees, and we're having pain in our back because of these poisons. And then the other thing is not just the poison, but it start breaking down our DNA. Mm. When your DNA start breaking down, you're now open up for blood capillaries disease, which the number 1 is cancer.
Wow.
So
what about all, because, up on the list is, obesity. Obesity is such a major concern and a contributor to all type of chronic ailments. But it appears that even in some, I was looking at, and I don't know if it was an altered state of a person, or if it was really this person's makeup of her body, but they look almost like, how you look like something is a water balloon. Like some
well,
it's like it's you're so filled with toxin, like there's no sign of any kind of muscle tone, but it's almost like your body is just full of like, I guess the analogy is like it's a water balloon. Like every part of the body is just bulked up. And
I remember years ago, maybe 30 years back, when I used to read before even the internet and stuff, showing all these different physicians and stuff switching over to nutrition. I used to read different nutrition book apart from I started out, of course, the main book. I used to do my National Geographic, so which is anthropology, watching what old cultures would eat and so forth. But then I remember I was reading a book which talks about the size of your body. When you, and it actually shows these different naked bodies. Now that you're talking about naked with on this show, but they would show naked bodies and show the fat distribution area and what are the health issues. And that balloon look where it's around the gut and the chest area gets small as the gut area gets big and ballooned out into this weird pear shape
Mm-hmm.
was always associated with insulin resistant issue. The body, your metabolism is not breaking down sugar and sugar related foods properly in your system. So that was one of the things, but it has gotten worse. And back then it was pear shaped. Yes, we knew, but those people were eating a lot of bread, a lot of grains, processed stuff still. But now it has gotten worse because they have come up with, through science, they've decided to come up with all these different kind of sugars to put now in their processed food that they claim is low fat. The biggest lie was this whole low fat thing started in, I think, the 70s, 80s, getting people to even go to vegetable oil instead of eating the real fatty coconut oil, the real fatty butters, the real fatty lard that our grandparents, I remember my mother used to cook with lard when I was a child. I mean, I've never seen, my mother never had a really heart issue when she was young, and she was cooking with lard in her 40s. And lard is just pig fat I used to get from the butcher, and you take it home and you fry it out in the pot before you put your other stuff, whether it's vegetable or whatever. Now they came up with these vegetable oils from soy, from corn, from rapeseed, from all these things, and you're having more heart disease among young people than any other time and the history. So that also stems from uh, this processing, this scientific processing of certain foods, but not really, by using chemicals. So the obesity that we're seeing is from these multidextrose, which are multidextrose mean all these different kind of sugar that they're coming up with that are man-made, and they claim that they're low fat, but they're creating more damage to the liver, which is where your metabolism generates its fuel. Is through the liver. So if you're eating too much synthetic stuff, you're damaging the liver. The liver is not getting ready to clean, not really getting to clean the system like it needs to. The bowels are not working, everything shut down. So everything stays in your gut, damaging your pancreas. And so the obesity that we're dealing with, again, stems from over-processed, ultra-processed foods that they claim are low fat. So they take out the fat and put more sugar, more salt. That does more damage.
But that's also what's contributing to the rise in Alzheimer's. Remember, we were talking about how
Right,
the cases of Alzheimer's, the patients are getting younger and younger and younger. And
right, right.
the relation between the sugar on the brain and, what are some of the things that you're observing, because you've been treating several patients with Alzheimer's related or pre-Alzheimer's,
Right. And, once I take them off the grains, which are mainly GMO, I take them off the grains that, I remember one Alzheimer patient that I had, and she's, basically a big turnaround. You remember her, Winsome Singh. When I found out, some of her history, this woman used to drink Pepsi like it's water every day. Every day she would be, her husband was telling me she would never leave out her Pepsi. And what are these diseases? Most of these diseases are too much sugar somewhere, whether too much sugar in your pancreas, which causes, diabetes, too much sugar in your brain, which causes Alzheimer's. They're saying that Alzheimer's is type 3 diabetes. And that makes sense. Just too much sugar attacking the neurons, shutting them down in your brain, causing blockages in the different pathways, the different highways of neuron activity in your brain. And so you have inflammation, too much inflammation. It's like saying a pothole forming on the highway, but it's getting so big and loaded up with water and other things that you can't drive through it after a while. That's what's happening to the brain with sugar. That's what happened to the body with sugar, your gut, why diabetes. And most importantly, which triggers a lot of cancers when you have too much sugar in your system, causing these blood vessels to break down quickly and your DNA to get damaged quickly. So I think, but what's going on with the vaccine, or we want to call it the what was the word I used before? Gene therapy. Some people have gone to a drastic way and saying that biological weaponry against humankind, is one. The reason why there's a turbo situation. So turbo. Let's look at why it's turbo. Because we always had cancer situations to deal with because of the high content of sugar. We always have a high diabetic situation because of the content of too much sugar in the last 50 years. We have gone from 50 years ago about 5 to 10 pounds of sugar in our diet yearly to now about 100 pounds of sugar.
100.
So you're going to have 100. So you're going to have these disease escalating more than ever because of too much sugar in our system. So, but then you have those breakdown happening, and then you also have another thing that mess with your mitochondria, which is a injection that now goes in, disguises itself through glyphosate oxide, and instead of staying in your deltoid where your immune system's supposed to get rid of it, the immune system and everything accepts it because it has magnetic field protecting it. And magnetic field is a part of our body. It's about polarity and keeping a balance. So these scientists decided to hide the poison so you could get deeper into our system, into our mitochondria. And now you're finding all these young people that are dying from myocarditis and other blood clotting issues. They're pulling out of their arteries these rubbery clam type of venom, that stimulate in the vein, and they're pulling them out in autopsies, which blows my mind, because they're calling it a new disease. But why are you calling it a new disease when you know that you inflicted, and then they're getting the government to just be hush hush about it, because these so-called pharmaceutical companies that are supposed to be looking out for your health know the damage that they're doing to these people, and they just, because they pay off the governments, and I can say that here, they don't want them to.
Yes, you say that, but there's a point that I want to make, because as always, the show time, it's like you get right into a great conversation, and before we know, we blink and we're at the end of our
What time did this show finish?
It's we're a few minutes over, so we're gonna wrap up. But one thing that I'd like for you to point out before we wrap up, because one thing that I think that a lot of times people don't realize when we speak to sugar, let's just kind of go back there.
Yeah.
When we speak about sugar, it's not just the sugar that you're aware of that you're consuming. It's the other things that turn to sugar in your body that a lot of times sneak by folks. So before we go, Doc, could you touch on just some of those other things that people are consuming that they're not correlating to the high impact of how it is being converted in their body and how it is functioning as sugar? So it's not just that you're sitting there eating, teaspoons and teaspoons of white sugar or brown sugar.
Right. So it is what, it's in the foods that we like, the comfort foods. So a lot of these, I'm dealing with it. One of my the kind of physician that I am, I'm a nomadic physician. So I do go to places when it's an urgent case, and I do mingle with the family, see what they eat, and it's just unfortunate. This situation that I'm dealing with here, which started, with a small, before the vaccine started, with a small lump in the throat, which they basically didn't pay attention to, and then over time it escalates into, with the vaccine, after the vaccine, it just blossomed into this huge cancer, which chemotherapy for 8 months, and within the 8 months, and then radiation, which damaged tissue. But I was looking at all these different little snacks around the house, in the kitchen, little cakes, little berries, little, pastry that's surrounded by, little wheat. I mean, and they're made in China. A lot of them, they're made, you go to the Asian stores and they get them. But I noticed they're all, and this morning I had to ask one of the, the sisters to the lady with the cancer, are these, who used to eat all this stuff? And they told me the young lady, she's 56 or 57 years old. She used to, this was her daily snack, these different things, even rice, rice cakes. And she just loved her pastry, and she would eat these throughout the day, even though she was slim. But there was this kind of fat that you get into your gut that contributes from this kind of sugar, where the liver just gets so damaged. But that's the main thing. A lot of people see these little cute little things in the stores, and they're processed. Number one, you look, they were showing me, oh, can we eat these noodles, like the ramen noodles, but they have these, they're made in China or Korean type, and they look a little. But when I look at the ingredients, I could not believe, in one little pack of noodles, I have literally saw over hundreds of ingredients. I'm like, why would you want all these ingredients in a little pack of Remy noodles? And a lot of us do that because it looks like it's simple flour and it's white and it's look harmless. There is so much sugar and other things and salt and poison that is in this thing that it doesn't leave your body for 100 years. Your body can't even break it down. And then you wonder why the obesity, why all this fat. Even if you're slim, this fat can form around your organs. And when these fat form around your organ, especially your liver, you're now setting yourself up for these diseases. So it's not just the obese person that shows it, obviously, but some of us slim people, if we keep snacking on these things, think it's okay, and when we're hungry, we take out a pack of Remy, and some people will eat Remy all 2-3 times a day. I remember this one college student, and other college student, who would eat Remy all the time because they think it was fine for energy, and before he even graduated, he was dead from college. And I remember it was a comfort food for me in college. You basically, I would just, when you go to the supermarket, stack upon some Remy's. I would eat the Remy's.
Yeah,
And then didn't realize how dangerous it is.
Part of a student survival kit,
Exactly. You go, they're cheap. You get like 5 packs of Remy for $1. Who can beat that?
Right.
But that's what the problem is with all this processed stuff. We have to see what's in the ingredients, the poison that we're dealing with, and how it affects our gut health, number one, our DNA, and our blood stem cells production through capillaries and other things, because we all have a stem cell production. But if we eat certain things, it will speed up the stem cell production, which will get cancerous or even blind you.
Wow. Okay,
so
we
things
definitely have to continue this conversation. We're going to have a part 2 with the doc, so that we can dive a little bit deeper, because again, this nutrition, I mean, that's what we're doing. That's what 420 Wellness Jamaica is all about, is having an opportunity for people to not only come and be able to heal themselves, mind, body, and soul, but to learn more about, gut health, and to get their bodies reset. We believe
real quick, superfoods that you should get, and that, give you that comfort feeling. 80% or better in diabetic cases, dark chocolates, one of the ones that help to give you good stem cells. And so, you have solutions.
Say it's what, 70%, or a lot of people have no clue
for
about
diabetes, 80% and up. For people like, that kind of normal like myself, 70% and up. Yeah.
Okay.
You don't want to go below 70%.
Okay.
I mean, of course,
not milk chocolate. Because
No,
what?
nothing to do. No milk chocolate. Milk chocolate is the enemy. Enemy. Yeah.
All right. So dark chocolate. What else?
Green tea. Stock up on your green tea. Drink a lot more green tea. Um, the other thing is, those broccoli and those kind of foods are rich in flavonoids and polyphenols that are healthy. Grapes with dark skin and seeds that when you chew it, you feel that bitter taste at the end, where the skin, you can just suck out that bitterness. All those bitters are good flavonoids for your DNA, for your blood capillaries, for your heart, your kidneys, your liver. They're very healthy. They replenish tissues and cells. And if you have a sweet tooth, you can cheat it with blueberries. Not be careful. Try and get the blueberries that are wild and stuff, because they're putting sugar in blueberries to get you more addictive to blueberries. So, but blueberries, it's one of those things. If you do have a sweet tooth, but stay away from all the processed sugar stuff, the stuff that they make in these factories and so forth. If Mother Nature didn't make it, stay away from it.
That's probably a good place. That's probably a good place to conclude. Well,
Exactly. If
yeah.
man made it, stay away from it.
Wow. Wow. But read
Yeah,
ingredients, read the ingredients. And if you see multiple ingredients, probably it's not worth consuming for sure. For sure.
right. And if
But
you
if
see anything say multidextrose, it means a lot of sugar. And there's so many different names now they call in sugar, but one of the dangerous one is high fructose corn syrup. Anything with corn, and now they're not even saying high fructose corn syrup, they're like corn sugar. They're
they
trying to
changed
nice
it.
it up. Yeah.
Exactly. They
So
changed it. And
all of
everything
that
that's
is,
labeled
is
organic is not necessarily organic. So you have to read
exactly.
the labels. You have to read the
They're
labels.
getting bad. They lobby the government to change even what organic's supposed to be. Yes. So you
Yeah.
want as natural as possible.
Yeah.
That's what you're
Nice.
looking for,
It's
as
time to
natural as
go back
possible.
to your own garden at home. You need to
Right,
have a
right.
community garden at home. Absolutely.
Exactly.
You know
And
what you're
the supplements you need for cleaning out some of this system is you need definitely to make sure you're getting your omega 3, most powerful, the oil. You could get it through olive oil, you could get it through different good oil, but stay away from vegetable oil. That's one of the synthetic enemies that is causing clogged arteries and so forth. So you want to get your coconut oil, your authentic olive oil, because what they're doing with olive oil is mixing it with vegetable oil, which is just as bad. You can get your omega 3 from sardines and wild salmon, but the omega 3 is one of those supplements you need. Number two, your amino acid, which you can get from the perfect source of natural amino acid would be eggs. Eggs on a regular basis, even though they want to tell you eggs cause heart problem. That's the biggest lie. It's the synthetic stuff that they're making in the labs that causes heart problems. And third, yeah, your green teas and your green vegetables. I find that broccoli sprouts and agrilla, what do you call it, rocket or
yeah,
agrilla,
yeah, yeah.
arugula, and those sprouts are very healthy. And you can have arugula, just normal arugula, and spinach and kale is good, but they do have, you have to be careful with the pesticide that they put on them and other nutrients that is not beneficial to everybody's DNA also. So you have to make sure you do your research on spinach and kale. But yeah, those are the things that will counter. And if you have a Bluetooth, your chocolate and your blueberries are there.
All
I mean, if
right.
you have a sweet tooth.
Me too. Well, here's the
Yeah.
day. So if you're out buying treats, why don't you throw in some dark chocolate and really give your love some love?
Yeah. A little bit of dark chocolate in the night after a good meal with a glass of red wine doesn't hurt.
All right. All right. Well,
All
thank you
right.
so much for joining me today. We definitely have had a little bit of part one and part two. So that means part three and part four. We need to schedule those. And, good luck to your
Yes,
patients
yes.
that you're treating. And of course, good luck with your travel journeys and staying healthy yourself
I know. I know.
there.
I'm like right now, my eyes just feeling heavy. I need to get back to sleep. I did my show in London at like 1 a.m. to 3 a.m. this morning. Got a little sleep, got up, treat the patient. So yeah, I'm ready for my midday nap.
All right. Well, thanks, Doc. Thanks for sharing your input, and we'll catch up with you again soon. You be
Will
well.
do.
All
Will
right.
do. Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.
All right.
So, if this was your first time joining me for Naked with Dr. Money, we went a little bit longer today. I wanted the doc to weigh in on a few topics, but typically we're about 30 minutes every Wednesday, noon Pacific. Hopefully, you'll join me again next week. I have a month filled with exciting guests, so tune in. If you'd like to get more information, you can check out my website at www.drmoney.live. And our sponsor is 420wellnessjamaica.com. So I'll see you next time. In the meantime, be well.